This is When I Grow Up with Paul Glazby.
So, Will,
Hey, Paul.
thanks for being with us.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
So, drummer,
Yeah.
plumber,
Yeah.
and unfortunately the last one doesn't rhyme. It would have been amazing if it did. Business owner.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what did you want to be when you grew up?
No idea.
Oh, same as me.
Yeah. I don't think anyone really knows
I don't think they
exactly
do.
what they're going to do, are they? Or do they?
Well, I guess some people do, but no one that's been on this podcast.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I think there's very few people that, say, like at what age do you think you should know?
Well, that's the thing, and that's what annoys me is that when you're a kid and they're like, what classes do you want to do, or what what subjects are you going to be doing that are going to lead you to where you want to be, and you just think, I ain't got a clue.
Yeah.
I'm 47 in a few weeks, and I still don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit of a ridiculous notion, hey, that like kids get put through school, and at the end of their, 4,000 days of school, they're supposed to have a really good grasp on what it is that they're doing, and all their subjects are supposed to inform that. But at the end of the day, I would say 99% of people, unless you're a sportsman, I reckon.
Yeah.
It's about probably the earliest example of a kid knowing what they want to do. It's because they found an incredible hobby to start with, and it's informed their decision. They've become really good at it. So then they get into sports, or they get into that sport, and then they get better at it. They get selected for all the right teams. Before you know it, they're getting contracts at the age of 17 or 18 while still being in school.
Yeah.
So, if you're not a professional sportsman, it's kind of hard to know what you're going to do. I know there are some kids that want to be doctors and all those sorts of things, but even still, I've got mates who have become doctors after school, and they've just gone about it the other way.
Yeah.
Not necessarily getting the high school marks, but just deciding at a later date become paramedics.
Yep.
Then from paramedics, they've gone into further studies and picked it up from there. So, long story short, long way around it. No, I didn't know what I wanted to do. What's your next question?
So you left school, went into...
Yeah, so I left. I went all the way through year 12.
Yep.
Only because I didn't know what I wanted to do anyway, right? So I was in that environment, just keep going. Yep. Left year 12 and got offered an apprenticeship with a fella on the Central Coast where I grew up. He lived near the beach, and he was looking for a young guy to be an apprentice, and it was just me and the boss and a mate of mine who was a builder. I used to do some like weekend work and used to help him out as a chippy, basically like a labourer. He suggested me to his mate who was the plumber, and then Cole actually took me aside and said, you should be a plumber, go for it. Just if you do decide to do the apprenticeship, finish it. Make sure you finish it. Hang in there as long as you, until you finish that apprenticeship.
But what made him think you should be a plumber? Like, what was
Well, because he was a builder, and every builder out there says, if I had my time again, I'd just be a sparky or a plumber.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, we're ducking in and out of their jobs all the time. They're stuck on the one job for the duration of the job.
Right.
And they think we're making heaps of money on it, and they're not, but it's hardly the case. I don't think. I just think nobody's
Grass is
making
always
that much
greener.
money. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It is always greener. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, he just said, you really should take this, And at the age of 18, you can do a 4-year apprenticeship, and at 22, if you don't like it, you just tuck that little license in your back pocket and go travel. You still got options. So, yeah.
I think really that's how things are going to move forwards. This whole thing of everyone having to go to college and university, and I think there's some people have still got this thought that you've got to have gone to university to be successful in things, but I'd never believe that. I still don't. And I think if you've got your head screwed on and you work hard, that you can, like everything I've ever done, I've just fell into it by accident.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to do any of it, and I've done, pretty well out of.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think the secret to a lot of things is social ability. To be honest,
I thought you were going to say social media.
no,
Post it, be a millionaire.
there's probably something to that, social media. Although I hate to use it, and I'm reluctant to post anything on social media. I forget about it. I know I should do it more.
A lot of your posts are good though. I've seen your a lot of your stuff with. Do you do them, or does someone else do them for you?
Oh, in the last year.
Like with the graphics and stuff on them?
Oh, no, that was, before when I was paying people to do it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's exhausting. Even that, it was exhausting trying to maintain the attention levels on that. I know it's a vital thing, but it's just another growth point of mine that I need to overcome. Get better at just yet something else. The list just keeps growing of things I need to get better at. What were we talking about?
So you were saying about you did your apprenticeship?
I did, yeah. At the same time, so I grew up in a household with pretty musical parents.
Mm.
My mum and dad met playing music when they were young, and then so all of us kids were musical, and so I was playing in bands from a young age.
Mm.
And even when I got my apprenticeship, I was still playing in bands, and then played in a few bands sort of leading or through my apprenticeship. And then by the time I was like 23, 24, I had a kid when I was 25, got married at 23, and I was had my first kid at 25. So then kind of had to put to bed the whole music thing, because it just, you can't make money from it straight away.
What kind of bands were you playing? What kind of music, I mean?
Just like rock, alternative rock.
Okay.
Yeah. Down on the Central Coast and through Sydney.
Right.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago now. Like, it was,
How old are you now?
40.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just thinking how long ago it was when I was 23.
Longer.
Even longer.
I'd hope.
Yeah. So playing in bands.
Yeah.
Did your apprenticeship. Married at 23.
Yeah.
And still married.
Still married.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, against all odds, hey.
Yeah, one of the rare ones.
Yeah. Still consider it.
I was married at 23 actually.
You were you?
Yeah, divorced at 25.
There you go. How was that?
I don't regret it.
Oh yeah. Fair enough. Oh, we've all thought about it.
I don't regret a thing. Both.
Both seemed like a great idea at the time, eh?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, you're 23 years old. Like Rachel, I was married to, she was 5 years older than me. So I was 20 when I met her. She was 25, obviously. And then, I'm pretty sure I was 23 when we got married. And, but, you're like, we're going to be together forever.
Yeah.
May as well be married.
Yeah.
I had this most ridiculous... in fact, when I went back to England in September, took my girls back. They'd been to England a few times. They were real small. We'd not been back for nearly 8 years, so they were 4 and 2 last time they went back. Or maybe 5 and 3, maybe. So, like, going back this time, like being older, so I took them to York. I thought it'd be good for them to see something, like some of the old buildings and things like that. They didn't really give a shit, but we went anyway. And as we were driving there, we drove past where I got married, Hazelwood Castle, a fucking castle,
unreal,
bananas. And my wedding, so I got like 2 groups of friends, because my DJing had just took off.
Yeah,
like maybe like a year before, 18 months before. So I'd got all the guys from, all the DJ friends and all the DJ management companies. Like they all came, but then I got all my mates from like my late teens, early 20s, who were like the gangsters.
Were they? No other way of putting it, really, is it? I could see you searching for a different word.
But yeah, there's this like real like mix of people, and then this group of guys had stuff that this group of guys wanted, but they didn't speak to them, and it was just
there you go.
Yeah, fun times
in a castle.
In a castle, yeah.
It's one thing in Australia
there's no castles.
Legitimately can't do is have a wedding in a real castle.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, in fact, we couldn't even have a legitimate wedding in the castle. So, what happened with there was like this, and this place is like hundreds of years old as well, like a chapel thing. And that's where but for some reason, there was like license. I don't know what it was, but you weren't. It wasn't licensed. So by the time we walked down the aisle, we were already married. We had it was like a civil ceremony thing in.
Sort of like you went through a registry office first, got legitimately married.
It was in the grounds, but it was like in the actual hotel part, which was still part of the castle. But then Rachel wanted it in this chapel thing. So there's like this balcony thing where there's all these people singing, and all the guests were in the. And like I said, this thing was like hundreds of years old, but for some reason you couldn't legally get married there, so we had to do it in the thing. And just like his parents were there, and then from there we went through and then all the guests were there, and we had this like fake wedding. We were already married. We've been married for 20 minutes. So it was doomed to fake from the start. Anyway, but yeah. So well done.
Yeah,
17 years on.
17 years on.
So you
Couple
got
more kids.
Yeah, you got 3 kids, haven't you?
Got 3 kids. Yeah,
So
2 boys and a girl.
Right. So they're what? 15.
15, 12. And, well, he'll be 12 in March. 12 and 9. Yeah, 2 boys and a little girl.
Nice.
And, great. Marriage, far out. What a trip, eh? So, some days are good. Some days aren't as good.
You know what? I saw this old couple, and they were like, in the late 80s, they've been together for like 70 years or something. It was just like, bananas how long they've been together. And they were being interviewed, and it said, what's the secret to lasting so long? And I think it was the husband, actually. He said, there was never a moment where one of us wasn't in love.
Ah, yeah.
He said, so long as you've got one that's still, then you can sort it out. He said, if you get to a point where neither of you care, then you're fucked. I'm paraphrasing. I don't think he said that, but...
Surely there's points in your marriage where you both hate each other.
Well, I don't know.
That
was just his theory. I mean, he might be full of shit. I don't know.
My marriage has been like that. Pretty sure we've had a couple of weeks there where we both hated each other pretty good. And it was just then...
you know she's going to see this, don't you?
Yeah, I know. Nothing she hasn't heard before, mate. But it becomes an exercise in attrition, doesn't it? Like, who's going to give up the ground first? And because we're so competitive too.
Really?
Yeah, we're very competitive by nature, the both of us. So, yeah, if we
see how quick you can change your
little
tap.
Tips. Oh, I mean, we play to our strengths when it comes to those sorts of things. Like, I don't dare compete with her in the kitchen cooking. Why would I do that? So she wins that battle every time, and I happily, relinquish the title of best cook of the house goes to the missus.
But if there's a blocked toilet, watch out.
If there's a blocked toilet, I'm taking the title every time. But when it comes to life, sometimes we both think we're right. So, yeah, that can lead to some pretty icy little battles for a while. But, 17 years of marriage, and it's been great, actually. It's been good.
Nice comeback.
Yeah. I still don't sound convinced, do I? Look, I've been around for 17 years now, okay? Can't be that bad.
No. Neither can she.
That's right, yeah. And also, divorce is expensive, man.
Cost me a lot.
Yeah. So, you got to weigh it up. It's got to be worth it. And most of the time you weigh it up, you think, it ain't worth getting divorced over. It's probably easier just working this one out.
Just sound like you're giving it some thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
little notebook calculator.
Yeah. I've crunched the numbers, and it still hasn't added up yet. So, all right, we'll go again. We'll do another year. Yeah. I've
got some friends, and every year I think it's on their anniversary, they give each other a get out of jail card. Like,
do they now?
Yeah, like as in, do you want to? Are we going another year? Are we? And apparently the deal is if I don't know if it's one of them or if both of them say it. I don't know. Anyway, they're still together.
Sounds like a friggin' risky game. I'm fascinated by the Rumspringer.
The what? Sorry.
You know what Rumspringer is? So do you know
Educate me.
The Amish community in America?
Right. Yeah.
So the Amish community, right? they tuck themselves away in these little villages, no electricity, no outside influence, still
Big hats.
horses and carts, and they build their own barns, and they've got the big hats and the dumb neck beards. Well, I shouldn't say dumb. They got the neck beards. But their kids, they raise them in these little communities, but when they hit college age, or they hit like 17 and a half or 18, they go on a gap year called Rumspringa. And that is essentially the parents sending them out into the world to like expose themselves to every single vice they want to. They're allowed to do whatever they want. They're allowed to go as wild as they want to be, and it's their choice whether they come back to the community or they continue out in the great big world.
Mine lasted 5 years and I didn't come back.
Were you also raised Amish?
No.
Yeah. You could imagine like how gnarly that would get.
I did box. So from 15 to 19, I was just
boxing.
Like
discipline.
Didn't drink. I mean, I might have had a couple of drinks in like those, but like not. Yeah, like, and then stopped boxing. A few weeks later, ended up going to like my first house event.
Yeah.
Never looked back.
There you go. Just got on the tweak. Just tweaks from then on in.
Just rumspringing.
Rumspringing. Put the gloves
just
down.
Just a pure rumspring.
Picked up a couple of decks and
that's it.
Started spinning. Yep. But yeah, you'd imagine a rumspringer in a marriage.
Right. I wonder why we were talking about
I brought it back.
Circle
back. Circle back. I mean, far out we're going to go down this route, but there's a lot of weird ideas around marriages these days. People are trying everything. Seems to be a lot more liberal these days, marriage.
Internet, mate.
Yeah. Internet.
Opens people's eyes.
Yeah, true. For the record, I'm very traditional in my marriage.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah, very traditional. I wasn't segueing into some sort of...
I thought it was an invite.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you reckon that's how it happens?
Maybe.
Do you reckon that's how
fish
people
bowl,
do it?
chuck your car keys in.
People are like, oh, how's that swinging thing? Hey, it's so weird, isn't it? And then, then they just gauge the room. Just throw your keys over there. Do you reckon it's weird, or do you reckon it's just normal? And then,
just testing it. Oh, no, I think it's all right. And the next thing
it's actually pretty. Maybe it isn't that bad. Hey, actually, No, I am very traditional. If you're thinking of hitting me up, anyone that is listening to this, don't bother. All right.
Yeah.
I'm a kept man.
Kept man. His rum's not getting sprung anytime soon.
I'm not getting sprung or rummed. Anyone
that could have been it. Drummer, plumber, rummer.
Oh, Rumspringa.
I knew there was a rhyme in there somewhere.
It's not. It's not though. False advertising. I'm a pretty boring guy, to be honest, Glazby.
Well, I've heard that your father isn't.
No, my dad wasn't. No. No. I mean, I am a little eccentric, but he was very eccentric. So, yes, he was a professional musician. He was a bass player all through Sydney and whatnot. And so I grew up going to a lot of gigs. And, great bass player, good guitarist, amateur kung fu artist. Loved the arts, martial arts. He was very fond of it. So, plenty of great stories of watching my dad spar with my mum in the kitchen when mum wasn't even involved. Yeah, have you ever, when like kids, like they just throw like dummy punches and kicks like at people just because they think they're good at what they do, and mum's going, stop trying to kick me. Like, what are you doing? Like, stop it. And he'd be like, anyway, sometimes you get a bit too close and give her a nick,
Nick. He used to cut his toenails.
Nah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe that. Yeah. No, I should say he just kind of, every now and then. I'm not advocating that he was a violent man.
There was no domestic violence.
No, he wasn't a domestic violence kind of guy. It wasn't his thing. But if you were a banana plant in the backyard, watch out. He'd have that. He'd be throwing his samurai sword at it, and kicking it. Yeah, yeah. He was a cool guy. Just a very different man.
Is he still around?
No, he's not. No. Had a heart attack when he was 58.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty young, out of nowhere, just a big old heart attack, and that was it, gone. But he used to, he was a pretty fit guy, but he used to smoke a lot. He smoked a lot of weed, and he used to put a fair bit of tobacco in it, I reckon. Just use it, heaps of it, so, yeah.
Well, my dad, heavy smoker, didn't smoke a lot of weed. But going back to my wedding, that's a little segue there. The night before my wedding, so Rachel and all the girls went to the castle the night before for like, you know, all the girls were up there. And a friend of mine, John, he had this big house and it was like kind of out in the sticks a little bit. Not nothing major, but like it was one of those where you try and order a taxi and they're like, oh, it's going to be 2 hours, love. You know, it's like, fuck. So anyway, we were at John's and there was this kid Gonch, he owned the Asian supermarket like around the corner and local weed dealer. Gonch, yeah.
What a name.
And his, like the weed that he had is like super skunk deluxe, you know, like just the heaviest of the heavy. And he'd just be smoking it all day. So anyway, we're at John's having a few drinks, good laugh. And then Gonch, he's got this spliff, and my dad, trying to be like one of the boys, he's like, here, let me have a go at that fag. So he gets it. And, you know, like, if you, not that I do, full disclosure, but if you were smoking weed, you'd be like, you know, that'd be, my dad smokes this thing like it's a Benson and Hedges. Like, literally. You know, like, there's like ash dropping off the end, you know, because he's like burning this thing. Has a couple more drags, passes it along. Next minute, oh yeah, pass me that fag again. Burning it down. 10 minutes later, my other mate is like, your dad's at the bottom of the stairs, you need to go and like help him out. And my dad's just sat on the bottom step with his head in his hands, like, oh, what's happening? And just fully whited. We're trying to ring him a taxi, but like I said, we're out in the middle of nowhere. And he's like, it's going to be 2 hours. I'm like, Dad, it's going to be a couple of hours for this taxi. I had to sit and console him while he's having this full-on like episode, like greening out.
Crisis.
So, and then at the wedding the next day, he's trying to tell everybody that we spiked him. That's it. Oh, these boys here, they're all tricking me they were.
Yeah, look, we've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty funny. My dad, I don't think I ever saw weed get the better of him, to be honest.
Conditioned.
Very strong constitution. No,
weed,
actually.
Weed fit.
No, I tell a lie. No. He he had a couple of episodes growing up. Every now and then he would really go off the Richter. And it got a little bit more, it actually got a little bit more sort of, how would you say, commonplace, I suppose, when he was getting a little bit older. He was unravelling for sure. But I remember on the Goldie, he came up and visited us, and my big sister lives down in Tugan. He was staying down there, and she rang me and she goes, well, you got to come and get Dad. He's off with the fairies. I'm like, oh, all right. So I raced down to him, and he was running down the bush with a flute tucked into his belt, like freaking Jethro Tull. It was ridiculous. And he must have picked something up from down, because he used to, like, he'd come up and visit, but he'd shoot off down to Nimbin or something for a day and get a stash. And geez Louise, he was off with the fairies. He was having a bit of a manic episode on it or something. So it was either he was having a manic episode or he'd gotten some weed that was like laced up with something, and gave him
I'm having flashbacks to playing pool with you that time.
Oh, I was bullcrap. I kept it very under wraps. I was very in control. I just as long as I sat still and stared at my pool cue.
And kept your sunglasses on so we didn't see your red eyes.
Yeah, and that bloke that had that flipping oil dispenser. Yeah. You know who you are if you're listening to this. That was not soft stuff. No,
he's the epitome of a snake oil salesman.
100% he is. He'll definitely know who he is now listening.
I'm sure he will.
Oh, mate, you had about 3 times as... I had 1 puff on that thing, and that was me. It was good, but...
I just remember there was you and and Matt and the other guy, and I didn't think anyone else was affected. I knew Matt wasn't because he didn't have any.
Yeah.
But I'm looking, and then I thought I was watching TV. well
That's so good. I literally had one bump on that thing, and that was it. Like one drag and pass it on, and I thought I'm going to be smart about this, and even me being smart about it was still sat there and went far out.
Literally, I can't remember. Maybe my kid's been born, maybe. But I can't remember ever being so happy as when I turned to you and you looked at me and said, the wheels have fallen off. And I realised it wasn't just me.
I'm glad I made you that happy, mate. That's good. Yeah, there you go. So,
plumbing.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's good, yeah. So, stuck with the apprenticeship, finished that one up, and then I moved to the Gold Coast pretty quick after that, and started working with a couple of businesses up here, plumbing, and then got into a bit of commercial. I did that for a few years and supervising and whatnot, and then decided I should start my own business. I was sick of driving to Brisbane and back every day, and so that was what we've been in business now for 11 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's just been great. It's good. I would have never regretted a day. Even on my hardest day, I haven't regretted starting a business and having a good crack at it and being my own boss.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, for me, like being in real estate now, it's the first time in my life that I've just focused on one thing.
Yep.
Like I always had 2 or 3 things. And you know, like when you're younger and you think, oh yeah, I'm different. I can, I can make a success of these 3 things.
These 3 obscure pursuits.
Yeah, and then like you look back, you're like, I would have been a millionaire if I just focused on one of them. You know?
Yeah.
But anyway, life lessons.
That's true. Well, you could have been a millionaire if you focused on one thing. I focus on one thing. I'm still not there yet, but we're giving it a good old.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, as well, like this, like I saw a picture the other day. And it was this. What does it say? It said, I saw the richest man in the world on the subway today. And I'm looking, thinking, where the fuck's Elon Musk in this picture? But it was a guy with his 2 kids, like, holding onto his legs.
Yeah.
Like, one must have been 5 and the other one looked about 3.
Yeah.
So, being a millionaire, it's not necessarily...
It's really not. I think you need to... I do think you need to remind yourself often. People talk about gratitude. They talk about, all of these... sort of daily reminders that you're supposed to give yourself, and most of the time I dismiss it, and I'm sick of the woo-woo and all of the overt positivity, because a lot of times life is hard, and it's just, I find it's easier just to be honest about the difficult, and it's a lot of it's a grind and everything else, but it is also good to remind yourself that we are lucky, especially where we are here. And, I mean, being a millionaire, what is it? Just a figure in your bank, really. But I think it is really good to remind... I find it's good for me to remind myself that even though I'm every day pursuing something, I'm pursuing growth or success in the business or... and it's easy to distill down on paper, is this successful or is this not successful, But incrementally over so long, I've built a life that I'm actually really happy with. I've got a good solid family, I've got a house, I've got, I'm there's so many things I'm grateful for, that if I were
a little bit of woo-woo every now and again is not...
A little bit of woo-woo every now and then, yes.
I had a mate back in Sheffield. He had a shop fitting business, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but like, let's say his turnover was like £3 million, so $6 million a year. Yeah. But the guy that he used to work for before he broke off and set his own thing up, his turnover was like 12 million or something. Yeah. And because I was saying to him once about, why don't you put more guys on and do this, and then he's like, he said, I don't want it. He said, my turnover's $3 million. He said, I'll make $1 million. Oh, I might be fucking these numbers up. But He said, the guy I used to work for, he said his turnover's 3 times as much. He only makes $1 million. He said, there's all this extra stuff. He don't make any more.
Yeah.
He's got more overheads. He's got more hassle. He said, I don't want it.
There is a very fine line.
Yeah.
I'm much of the same kind of, after 11 years in business, it's literally myself and one other person, 2 trucks on the road. And a lot of that is sort of intentional, I suppose, because it's quite easy to let your ego get in the way and think, well, I've been in business for so many years, I should have this much of a chunk of the pie, you know. But I think at the end of the day, it's not it's got nothing to do with the turnover of your business. It's what you're catching at the end of it. And unless you're doing that in a smart way, having a bigger business doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be holding on to any more money at all.
Yeah. I stumbled on I was looking for a file. I'm terrible at like the file in my shit on my computer. I was actually I did a online studio session. So when I went back to the UK in September, I went in the studio and did a new track because my record label that started back in 2000 is still going. I don't really have any involvement in it anymore, but Ben that used to work for me, he runs it. And they're up to like 375 releases now.
Wow. So
I went back in the studio and I did a new track, which is going to be Vicious Circle 400, which will come out early next year.
Yep.
And then Ben was saying, who do you want to do the remix? And I thought, well, I'll just do the remix. So because the original release was me on both sides. I mean, they're not doing vinyl anymore. It's all digital now, but, you still do an A and a B side kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so obviously I'm not going to fly back to England to do this studio session. So we just did it like online. And then we were just talking about some tracks, and I thought we'd done them 10 years ago. It's 19 years ago since we did these tracks. And I said to Paul Maddox, who I do he's like my engineer, and I said, can you remember them tracks that we did? And he's like, oh yeah, bump. And he just went, literally 10 seconds, not even 10 seconds, he found these tracks, the files. And I'm like, oh my God, my filing system is terrible.
Mate, I've got this mate, Jack, and his IT game is so tight, it's intimidating. So
sorry, the reason I was telling you that is because I was looking for a file, and then I ended up finding it was like a goal setting thing I did back in 2018.
Oh yeah,
and 2 of the things that were on there, obviously, my kind of life's sort of changed quite a bit since then. But 2 of the things that stood out to me, one of them was having a 4-bedroom house with ocean views.
Yeah.
Well, you can see the ocean, and there's 5 bedrooms here, so that's a little bit better.
Yeah.
And to drive a Mazda CX-9, which is what I drive. That was my goals back then, and I've not really thought about it since then. But then I just stumbled on it. I'm like, shit, that's.
Mate, we're perilously close to becoming a bit of a alternative wisdom podcast here. Yeah. Set your goals and
woo woo.
Ask the universe, and you never know what's going to happen.
Glazby and Will, woo woo.
That's right.
But yeah, there's definitely something to that whole.
Of course.
And something else I did recently as well was I'd done like a vision board. But instead of sticking pieces of paper to it, I just did it like on, I got the pictures and just made it on a Pages document on the Mac. Put it on the wall in the office. Didn't really think about it. But then we did a bit of a change around in the office. So I took it off the wall where it was. And when I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, I've got that. I've done that. I've got that. I've got that. I've got that. There's 2 things on this thing that I'd not actually got. So I had to redo it with like new stuff. And then I looked at it the other day and there's 3 things that are on the new one that I've already done.
Amazing.
Just incredible.
You didn't even know that you were doing it.
No. So
it does work.
But what I was going to say before is, for me, you were saying about the whole millionaire thing.
Yeah.
But I remember being in a restaurant and not looking down the right-hand side. Like when you're struggling, when things are tight, and you go in a restaurant and you look at the prices and then look across at what.
Yeah.
But then when I started going in a restaurant and not even looking, just looking at what I wanted rather than looking at the price.
Yeah.
That's like a moment when you go, fuck, things are going all right.
100%. That's great. That's cool. I do remember being a young fella and looking at my older brother, and he'd be out like buying cool clothes and everything else. And I used to like get his hand-me-downs, and he said, one day you'll make enough money to buy your own clothes, Will. I was like, I don't know, man. I just feel so poor.
Well, the thing is, everything went back to front for me because, I think having the work ethic, like, I used to have, like, 7 paper rounds.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'd have 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. It just, like, I'd have 2 bags on, and then I'd go back to the shop and load another 2 bags.
So you were entrepreneurial from a very young age?
Well, yeah, I guess.
You were just
like even
resourceful?
Yeah, even at 15, 16. So, like, I did work experience. They offered me a job in the school holidays. So in the school holidays, I used to go and earn, like, effectively $100 a week. But this is 30 years ago. Yeah. More, 32 years ago. So in my school holidays, so I'd be doing the paper rounds, then I'd do a day's work, then I'd do the paper rounds after work and paper rounds on the weekend. So when my mates at 14, 15, you know, might have had £5 a week in pocket money, but I'd have 35, 40, 50, if I was working in the printers, £100 a week, you know, as a teenager.
It's amazing, eh?
And then when I started DJing, I mean, that was, until I got into real estate, I'd never earned as much money as I'd had, because when I had the gyms, I was always reinvesting into the gyms, you know, and trying to buy new equipment and all that. But yeah, my whole financial thing was kind of back to front, because in my teens, right through to being, I guess, late 20s, I was always pretty well, but I pissed it all away, you know, divorces and shit. So fucking castles.
It's it's easier just to
But the thing is, you
think
think it's always going to come. You know, like you don't think it's ever going to. By the time you realise it's not going to last forever, it's kind of too late. And then like through my 30s, I was always okay, but because I was still DJing some, and I had the gyms, but like I said, a lot of it was just being reinvested. And then at 40 years old, I lost everything. Yeah, because the gyms just went tits up. And so when I got into real estate, that's when, you know, when I first got into real estate, I literally would have envelopes with cash in of like, this is my petrol money, this is what I've got to feed the kids, this is my rent. It's you know,
gnarly, hey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big difference between living like that when you're 20, and it's kind of like, I never had to experience that. This is, you know, learning life skills. But when you're doing it at 40, it's a new challenge. You're like, man, what's going on? This is crazy. I remember, I was pretty resourceful as a young fella. I always had a little entrepreneurial streak in me. Originally, because I grew up in a small house with a crazy dad who was a great musician, and mum who was also an absolute legend.
A banana tree in the back garden with loads of sword chops in it.
A very sad banana tree in the background. A few chickens running around, and a caravan out the back where my oldest brother Garth lived. And he's 7 years older than us. So he was, you know, I was literally 10 or 11, and he'd be 17, 18. So at 11 years old, all the boys would come around to Garth and hang out, and they'd smoke weed. And I think who knows if he was selling weed out of there. I'm pretty sure he was. What's the old statute of limitations? I think we're outside of him getting criminally charged for anything I say on this podcast. But yeah, he was definitely pushing weed out of that caravan. Anyway, there was always a crowd of blokes in my backyard on Friday and Saturday night, because they'd all drink in the backyard and hang out. I lived in like housing commission, by the way. This was a pretty rough little area, and but I used to go out there and they'd get drunk enough, and I would offer to like iron their clothes for them before they went to the club for $5 like a pair of pants or whatever. So good, because they get pissed, and then you're like, mate, are you gonna go out looking like that, or you're a mess? Look at you. And they're like, well, shut up, you. And I'll be like,
give us $5, I'll sort you out.
She's already hot inside there, mate. I've got it plugged in. You want to get those pants pressed? You just let me know. It's $5. And they'd be like, all right, take my pants. Here you go. So I get their shirt, their pants, go in there, iron them up for them. $10. Thanks very much. They're already pissed. I didn't care. So I just start pocketing this cash, and then I'd do the pizza run. They'd order pizza. I'd run down the front, get the boxes. I'd steal a couple of pizzas on the way up, hand them the pizza, give them their pants and their... Anyway, so it started there. But I remember being so skint as an apprentice because I convinced my dad... my dad got an inheritance. This is pretty funny. He was an only child. No wonder. He was an only child, and his parents kind of passed away within a few years of each other. So he had this inheritance, and he'd he inherited their house as well, which is out in Western Sydney called Lithgow. It's out in the Blue Mountains, and it's not a very high value area. Like it's just so.
Probably is now.
It's not. Oh yeah, I don't know if Lithgow's. It's probably doing a lot better than what it was back then, but still, it's kind of out there and it's in this valley and it gets quite cold. And but there's this big small arms factory out there that a lot of people move there for. It was
A big small arms?
Like, yeah, exactly. It was a big factory and they manufactured small arms, like, guns. And so my pop, going back even further, he was hired by the government and they lived in Wales, in Cardiff. And so my dad was born in Cardiff, Wales. Right. And they emigrated over.
Just a DJ in Cardiff.
Did ya? Yeah, there you go. So anyway, Dad inherited the house, and he was either going to buy a yacht or a plane with it. Neither of which he knew how to captain very well. And I thought this is a bit of a worry because he'll get an idea in his head and he'll want to buy a yacht and sail around somewhere until it becomes unmanageable, and then the yacht will sink, and then he'll have nothing again. So I convinced him to put the house on the market. I said, "You put the house on the market in Lithgow. I'll convince Trev, my big brother Trev, older brother Trev. We'll get a loan together. We'll try and buy a house, all three of us together." Anyway, like a week later, he comes back and goes, "House is on the market, mate. I'm doing it." I'm like, "Shit, okay, I didn't realise he'd take me seriously." So anyway, we start frantically searching, and I bought a house with my brother and my dad when I was 20 on the Central Coast. And I remember I was making $247 a week, and I don't know how we managed to get It was the wild days back in the sort of mid 2000s. It was just before the GFC.
Oh,
and
right,
it was lending rules were so bad.
Yep.
So we found this broker down in Sydney, this Jewish guy, and he just cooked up the craziest stories on our docs. It was a no doc loan, and apparently I was a fireman. When I went to refinance a few years later, it was my occupation was fireman. My brother's was a chef. It was a Sparky apprentice and a plumber apprentice. And I remember, like you were saying, with the cash envelopes and stuff, we got this first home buyers grant that we split. So we each had 10 grand that we got given to us for buying a first home. It was a government incentive at the time. And that was the only thing that was enabling us to pay back the loan for the first year, was using that first home buyers grant. And after paying for petrol and everything else, I'd have I think I had $24 or something left over to I don't know, come up with some food or whatever each week. For that first year, it was pretty wild. But when you're 20, it's kind of fun to live like that. It's it's good to become resourceful, try to make it work somehow.
Mate, when you're 40, it's wank.
I can imagine. It'd be soul destroying at 40.
Yeah.
It'd be horrible.
Well, made me work.
Yeah.
So I'm just, when you were saying about the $5 for the ironing the pants, I got my eldest, this is a few years ago, and I said to her, she's like, "Daddy, I want to earn some money." I said, "Okay, well, empty the dishwasher in the morning, fill it up at night," because I always used to put it on through, whatever it was, empty, when it's done, empty it, when it's, fill it up. 50 cents every time you do it. So she'd do it Monday to Friday. $1 a day. At the end of the week, she got $5. So anyway, I'm in the shower. There must have been 5 and 3 at the time, maybe 6 and 4. And I'm in the shower, and Nevaeh comes in. She's got all this, her eyes done, all the lipstick and everything. She's like, "Daddy, what do you think to my makeup?" I went, "Oh, that's beautiful, darling." She went, "Eden did it. She charged me $5. I can see who the money one is in this situation.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Kids and their money pursuits.
So what happened to the house on the Central Coast?
What happened to it? We sold it. It became a bit unmanageable for me because I moved to the Gold Coast fairly soon after we bought it, actually. Yeah. Sort of within the year. I'd finished my apprenticeship. No, I must have been in it for a year. Mm-hmm. I finished my apprenticeship early, actually. That's what happened, because everything slowed down just before the GFC. Everything hit the skids. Right. And the the boss said, "Oh, look, things aren't looking good with the business. We're not, you know." But I just finished all the schoolwork and everything, and technically kind of qualified in a way that not time-wise, but as far as all the bookwork is done at school. So, I got signed off early, which was good, and then shot through to the Gold Coast. But because then I was up on the Gold Coast and I was having to rent up here whilst also kind of paying a mortgage down there, and it's a bit of a share house situation. It got messy. I managed that for a few years, and then, my dad passed away. That's right. He passed away, and that was 14 years ago. So 14 years ago, he passed away, and then said to Trev, all right, like, we should probably just, sell this up, so then all the rest of us kids, like all, the other brothers and sisters, we can carve up some of whatever, Dad had to his name, and then we can release that to everyone else. It just felt like a good time to just put that one to bed. So that's what we did. We just, sold that up, and which was good, and it enabled me to buy a house on the Gold Coast.
Right.
I had a deposit sitting there from having bought that place. So lesson number one is, if you're making money as a kid, put some away and invest it if you can. Definitely.
That's the only thing, but it's just with house prices these days, it's like, how do you even start?
You got to buy regional, I think.
Yeah.
You got to go elsewhere.
Right.
You got to think outside the box.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's places like these, like new, there's Flagstone, which is like, the way I look at it though, and I've said this for ages, where I'm from, to get to the beach, Sheffield, you've got to drive 2 hours east to get to a beach, and it's shit.
Yep.
Not even sand, and the weather's crap.
Yeah, right.
But if you were living in one of these new, suburbs, these regional areas that they're kind of creating.
Yeah.
If you're moving from England, you're probably not going to be living in Palm Beach or Burleigh. I mean, some people will, but like if you lived in one of these areas like Flagstone and you had to drive 2 hours to get to the beach, but it's the best beach in the world.
Yeah. It's
not that bad, is it? So there probably is a lot to be said for investing in something like that, because as more and more people migrate to Australia, not everyone's expecting to walk to the beach.
No, it's a pretty high bar.
Yeah.
It's a very high bar to set. And I know people would ideally love to be able to do that, but we got a big country. There's a lot of places out there, and there's a lot of small property economies going on, around the place. It's not, we're just so East Coast centric,
Yeah, I mean, it's, the properties that I sell, stuff that's selling now for like 1.5, 1.6 that cost 700,000, like less than 10 years, just over 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Bananas.
There's always, I don't think no kid should grow up feeling hopeless about their financial future. Yeah. You just got to, it's just not going to be the same as what the boomers did. The boomers could literally trip over themselves and make money. Yeah. Like it wasn't, like they accidentally all made millions. Yeah. It's not, they didn't do anything special.
When you're called a boomer though, I mean, it's kind of expected to do well.
That's right. Yeah, they certainly enjoyed their own boom, didn't they? But it's, I think with it's going to be a mix of things. Hey, like there's going to be the only way this next generation are going to be able to get into that stuff is with the help of their parents to a degree. There's also that wealth transfer people talk about. The boomer market, in the next 20 years are going to go into either they're already in retirement age and advancing through it, and then eventually there's going to be a transfer of wealth that comes down, which is then going to inform how the market works from there on in. I don't know. I just think that no young person should address it with a bit of hopelessness, but more so with a bit of like, okay, let's work out how this has got to happen. You just got to be positive, and you worked out stuff. Yeah, and people do. People are resourceful. They'll work it out. They'll work it out how to do it. It's just intimidating to think that the first house you buy is going to be over $1 million. But for any kid living on the Gold Coast, that may not be the option.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Amen to that.
We'll delve into that when you come back.
Yeah, on our next finance podcast.
Starting at 40, we'll call it.
Starting again at 40.
Nice one, mate. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, pleasure.
Cheers, pal.
Cool.
This is When I Grow Up with Paul Glazby.